thank you for this new morning.
Bitte hilf uns jetzt, dass wir studieren, dass wir Gedanken auf dich gerichtet sind.
Please help us that our thoughts may be led to you.
Und hilf Lorenz, dass wir uns jetzt anführen.
And help Brother Lawrence to lead us out.
Und segne uns, wenn wir jetzt immer studieren wollen.
And please bless us if we study your word.
In Jesu Namen.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Alright, turn please to the book of Esther.
Wir gehen zum Buch Esther.
I just want to look at chapters 1 and 2 with you today.
Kapitel 1 und Kapitel 2 schauen wir an heute.
And these are some thoughts I had this morning, but you really should test them for yourselves. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure whether, because I only have short time to think about it.
Also diese Gedanken hatte ich heute Morgen und ich habe nur kurze Zeit gehabt, darüber nachzudenken und ich sollte es prüfen.
But just want to lay this out anyways and see whether it holds or not.
Und ich werde es auslegen und dann schauen, was wir herausfinden können.
Okay. So maybe let's read, to remind ourselves, let us just read chapter 1.
Lass uns Kapitel 1 lesen.
Let's read 3 verses each.
Jeder liest 3 Verse.
And can you start on?
Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces, that in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him.
Where he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 104 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days, in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white, green, and blue hangings, fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple to silver rings, and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver, upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black and marble.
And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel, so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to their man's pleasure. Also Vashti the queen made a feast for the woman in the royal house, which belonged to King Ahasuerus.
On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigthai, Bavta, Zethar, and Karkas, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti to the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned him.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's man toward all the new law and judgment. And the next unto him was Kashina, Sheta, Admata, Tarshish, Yares, Masina, and Muka, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which said, the first in the kingdom, what shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law? because she has not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains.
And Memucan answered, for the king and the princess Vashti the queen had not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come road unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes when it shall be reported. King Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
If it please the king, let there go the royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal state unto another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for his great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both the great and small. And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan.
For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people.
Okay, thank you. So we looked at this story quite some time ago.
Also wir haben schon manches Mal diese Geschichte betrachtet.
And I just wanted to know, also want to consider later chapter 2, but just want to lay it out as far as we have come to understand it, but then I will also show that at least when we come to chapter 2 there might be some different understanding from what we had so far.
Also wir werden später auch Kapitel 2 betrachten, aber vorher legen wir das Kapitel 1 aus, so wie wir es bereits verstanden haben, und in Kapitel 2 wird es vielleicht andere Betrachtungen geben.
Okay, so in Esther chapter 1, where is Ahasuerus?
Also in Esther 1, wo ist Ahasuerus?
You mean on the line?
No, according
In the
to
Shushan.
Shushan the palace.
Er ist in Shushan, im Palast.
Where else do we find Shushan the palace?
Daniel 8.
Yes,
Wo
Daniel.
finden wir sonst noch diesen?
Yes, so keep
In Daniel 8.
your finger here in Esther. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8.
Daniel 8 gehen wir.
And let's read verse 2 and 3.
2 und 3 lesen wir. Daniel 8, 2 und 3.
It says, And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. So when Daniel is now here in verse 2 in Shushan,
Wenn Daniel hier in Vers 2 in Shushan ist,
what is shown him?
was wird ihm gezeigt?
The Sunday law.
Sunday law crisis, right?
Die Sonntagsgesetzkrise wird ihm
So
gezeigt.
here you can mark Shushan.
Hier können wir markieren Susan.
Okay. So everybody can follow?
Kann jeder verstehen?
Okay. So when we go now back to Esther chapter 1,
Wenn wir jetzt zurückgehen zu Esther 1,
here you also have Shushan the palace marked.
und da haben wir auch Susan, diesen Palast.
And what is the king doing here?
Was tut der König hier?
Makes a feast, right?
Er macht ein Fest.
Well, historically, he's preparing for war, and he's gathering all the leaders of his worldwide kingdom together
Yes.
to make preparations.
Also geschichtlich macht er Vorbereitungen für Krieg.
Yes. So in the sense, historically it would mark these wars and rumors of war,
Und
preparation for war, right?
es würde geschichtlich darstellen, diese Gerüchte von Krieg, ja, Kriegsgerüchte.
But, I mean, there might be some application to it, but when we apply it now spiritually, who is he representing?
Also wenn wir es aber geistlich betrachten, bedeutet
Wen stellt er dar?
wenn stellt er da in prophetischer Weise?
Christ is gathering
Yes.
his armies.
Right.
Also Christus stellt seine Armeen zusammen.
Yeah. Because we understand, Sister White has visions where she says that Satan gathers his forces, right, preparing for war, and Christ will also do the same.
Also Ellen White hat eine Vision, dass Satan seine Armeen zusammenstellt für den Krieg und genau Jesus Christus tut auch dasselbe.
Okay. And how does Jesus do it?
Wie macht das Jesus?
According to verse 4.
Und wie macht das Jesus gemäß Vers 4?
What do you mean?
How does Jesus prepare his army?
Wie bereitet Jesus seine Armee vor?
He reveals his riches,
Yes.
his heavenly riches.
Exactly.
Also er zeigt seine himmlischen Reichtümer.
And how many days?
Wie viele Tage zeigt er diese?
180.
180 days.
180 Tage.
So that's this first feast for 180 days.
Also das erste Fest für 180 Tage
And he shows all his riches,
und er zeigt seine ganzen Reichtümer.
which are because when Miller he opened the casket, what was shown him?
Als William Miller diese Kassettenboxen geöffnet hat,
Kästchen.
Kästchen, okay. Was ist ihm gezeigt worden?
It's the jewels.
All the jewels and the
Die-
diamonds. And,
Also die Juwelen, die Diamanten,
so that's God's truth, right?
das ist Gottes Wahrheit.
So therefore, how does the Lord unfold His truth here?
Wie öffnet Gott seine Wahrheiten hier?
I mean, what is another illustration for God's truth in this time?
Was ist eine andere Darstellung für Gottes Wahrheit in dieser Zeit?
The oil, the manna.
Yes, the oil and the
Das
manna.
Öl und das Manna.
So you have to gather the oil here as a virgin.
Man muss sammeln das Öl und das Manna.
Okay, but after the 180 days, what does he then do?
Was macht er nach diesen 180 Tagen?
According to verse 5.
In Vers 5 steht das.
Yeah, it makes another feast, right?
Er macht ein anderes Fest.
How many days?
Wie lange dauert dieses Fest?
7 days, right?
7 Tage.
So 7 days, another feast.
Also er macht dieses Fest 7 Tage.
And at the end of these 7 days, or what are they to do in this feast here?
Was müssen sie tun in diesem Fest?
According to verse 7.
Vers 7.
They're having Passover, they're drinking.
Yes, okay.
Also sie machen das Abendmahl.
Because we understand this is also this feast, foot washing and drinking of the wine, right?
Also sie machen eben Fußwaschung und trinken eben den Wein.
Yeah. But it says here they drink royal wine in abundance.
Und sie trinken königlichen Wein in Überfluss.
And what is wine representing in the Bible?
Was bedeutet der Wein in der Bibel?
Doctrine, right?
Lehre.
Glorious wine.
And they drink now the wine of Ahasuerus, so it's pure doctrine, right? It's
Und das
Christ.
ist reine Lehre.
Christ's
Sie von
doctrine.
Ahasuerus trinken von Christus.
Yeah. And how do they drink it?
Wie trinken sie ihn?
And golden.
It says in abundance. Okay.
In der Fülle.
Let's go to Genesis. Keep your finger here. Let's go to Genesis 41.
1. Mose 41.
And let's read verse 28 and 29.
28 und 29.
Brother Mark, you want to read this for us?
Yes. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there comes 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt.
Yes. Okay, so where's Joseph standing on our line?
Wo steht Josef auf unserer Linie?
So where is he standing and telling Pharaoh these things?
Wo steht er?
Well, he's standing at the end of his experience.
Yes, he stands here, right?
Also er steht hier.
So it's a parallel to here.
Es ist eine Parallele zu Mitternacht.
And what does he say? What comes here now?
Und was sagt er hier, was kommt?
7 years of plenty, right?
7 Jahre von der Fülle.
And here you have 7 days, right, of plenty drinking this wine.
Yes.
Und hier haben wir auch 7 Tage, wo sie von der Fülle des Weines trinken.
And Noah's getting on the ark for 7 days, and it's
Yes.
a glorious manifestation of God's power.
Okay.
Und Noah ist auch auf der Arche 7 Tage und die herrliche Darstellung von Gottes Macht.
Yes. Okay, so 7 years of plenty, 7 days of abundance of wine. Okay.
Also 7 Tage der Fülle und 7 Tage Überfluss an Wein.
Okay. So when we go back to Esther chapter 1,
Wenn wir zurückgehen, Esther 1.
and what does the king now do at the end of the 7 days?
Was macht der König am Ende der 7 Tage?
Because the end of the 7 days would bring us here to the midnight cry, right?
Die Ende der 7 Tage bringt uns zum Mitternachtshof.
So now let's read verse 10 and 11 again.
10 und 11 lesen wir.
Unless you want to read this first.
On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehum, Bigtha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zebah, and Carcas, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
Yes, and also verse 12.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Alright, so at the end of the 7 days, what does the king do?
Also am Ende der 7 Tage, was macht der König?
He wants to see the woman in a glorious white garment with a king, with a crown on her head.
Amen.
Also sie möchte die Frau sehen mit weißen Kleidung und großer Schönheit.
He's looking for fruit, right?
Er sucht nach Frucht.
Okay. So, but he cannot find anything because Vashti, refuses to come.
Aber er kann nichts finden, wenn Vashti verweigert sich zu kommen.
Let's go first to Revelation 12.
Offenbarung 12 gehen wir.
Keep your finger on Esther always. 12. Let's read verse 1.
12 Vers 1.
It says, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So, where do we mark Revelation 12 verse 1?
Wo markieren wir 12 1?
Midnight cry.
Midnight cry, right?
Auch am Mitternachtshof.
So, and that's this righteous woman here, right?
Das ist die gerechte Frau hier.
And she has the wedding garment on and the crown.
Sie hat das Hochzeitskleid an und die Krone.
Whereas Vashti, she refuses to put on the crown and appear before the king. Okay.
Und Vashti, sie verweigert sich, das Hochzeitskleid anzuziehen und die Krone.
And to appear before the king.
Und vor dem König zu erscheinen.
And let's go now to Luke 14.
Lukas 14 gehen wir jetzt.
Let's read verse 16 down to
16
21.
bis 21.
Susie, you want to read this first? 14, 16 to 21.
14. 14, 16 bis 21.
Then said he unto him, A certain man will eat great supper and bake many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray thee, have
me excused.
Have me excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that servant came and shewed his lord these things. As the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly in the streets and lands and of the city, and bring in thither the poor and the maimed and the halt and the blind.
Yes. Okay, so where do we mark this here?
Wo markieren wir diese Geschichte hier?
This is the call, the last call going out at the cry 3 times.
Yes, it's a call to come basically to this marriage feast, right?
Also es ist ein Ruf, zur Hochzeit zu kommen,
like
zum Fest zu kommen.
Vashti, she received this call here, right, to appear before the king.
Also Vashti hat auch den Ruf bekommen, hier vor dem König zu kommen.
So, and what begins here at the midnight cry?
Was beginnt hier am Mitternachtsruf?
For all the women.
Für alle Frauen, was beginnt dort?
The investigative judgment, right?
Untersuchungsgericht.
So it meant women spiritually. Okay.
Ich habe gemeint, Frauen geistlich gesehen.
So.
Die Gemeinden.
So Vashti, right? She refuses to be investigated here. Okay.
Also Vashti, sie will nicht untersucht werden hier.
And the same is here with Luke 14. Yeah, the message is come, and who says come?
Also in Lukas 14 kommt auch die Botschaft. Und wer sagt komm?
The bride and the bridegroom.
Yes, the bride and the bridegroom.
Die Braut und der Bräutigam.
Keep your finger here. Let's go quickly to Revelation chapter 22.
Offenbarung 22.
And let's read verse 17.
17.
It says, And the Spirit and the bride say, Come. And let him that heareth say, Come. And let him that is athirst come. And whosoever will, let him take the water of the life freely. So it's here at the beginning, it's the Spirit and the bride that say, Come. Right?
Also hier am Anfang sagt der Geist und die Braut komm.
So it's right here, the bride is giving the midnight cry, right?
Die Braut gibt den Mitternachtsruf.
Alright, so, but those people, how many times did they make excuse?
Wie viele Male haben diese Leute Entschuldigung gemacht? Ausreden.
3 times, right?
3 Mal haben sie eine Ausrede gehabt.
And what were they bringing forth as arguments?
Was haben sie für Argumente vorgebracht?
I've bought land, I've bought 5 yoke of oxen, I've got married,
Yes.
all these worldly reasons why they can't come.
Also sie haben all die weltlichen Gründe vorgebracht. Ich habe Land gekauft, ich habe geheiratet
5 yoke of
und
oxen.
5 Joch von Ochsen gekauft.
Yes, that's why it's important, right, to understand, especially when we now go to the land, and move out of the cities, that we don't get our minds crowded with these things.
Und es ist speziell, wenn wir rausgehen aus den Städten, dass wir nicht ganz eingenommen werden durch diese Gedanken mit dem Land.
Because God must always come first, and He promises you, if you put Him first, He will bless you also in all your daily labor.
Also Gott verspricht, dass uns segnet, auch in unserer täglichen Arbeit, wenn wir ihn an erste Stelle setzen.
And then you can achieve more in less time than if you forsake Him and do these things.
Und du
a
kannst
lot
in
of time.
weniger Zeit mehr machen, als wenn du ihn vergisst,
Yes, and you have more time.
und du hast mehr Zeit.
And that waymark there is marked by the decree of Cyrus, where you had to go and build the temple.
This one, yes.
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 And Haggai rebukes them in this time period because they stop building the temple and start building their own things.
Exactly.
And he raises them, rebukes them for that.
Yes.
Also diese Wegmarke ist markiert durch Haggai, der den Befehl gegeben hat, den Tempel aufzubauen.
Cyrus gave the command.
Aha. Cyrus hat den Befehl gegeben, aber Haggai hat sie getadelt, weil sie eben den Tempel nicht aufgebaut haben.
Yes.
Und
Sondern ihre eigenen Häuser.
They were building their own things.
sie haben ihre eigenen Häuser gebaut.
Yes. Alright, so that's very important because it might sound harsh in somebody's ears if they consider all the work they have to do.
Es schaut manchmal vielleicht schwierig aus, wenn sie betrachten all die Arbeit, die sie zu tun haben.
But God doesn't tell you these things to burden you, but to help you. Okay?
Aber Gott möchte nicht, dass es eine Last ist für dich, sondern dass er dir hilft.
And He knows that only when you put Him first, all your labors in your house can really prosper. Okay?
Und er weiß, wenn du ihn an erster Stelle setzt, dann wird es Gelingen geben in deinem Haus.
But if you try to prepare your house in your own strength, maybe just quickly
Aber wenn
go
du
there.
deine Arbeit in deiner eigenen Stärke voranbringen möchtest,
Let's just see the results in Haggai.
lass uns anschauen in Haggai diese Resultate, die herausgekommen sind.
Haggai chapter 1.
Haggai 1.
And let's read verse 2 down to verse 6.
2 bis 6. Haggai 1, 2 bis 6.
Or actually, we can read down to verse 11.
Oder bis Vers 11.
It says, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, This people say, the time is not come, the time that the Lord's house should be built. Then came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, It is time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this...
Is it time? You said
Oh, sorry.
It is
Yes.
time.
Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste? So they lived in their own houses, and God's house was lying waste.
Sie haben in ihren eigenen Häusern gelebt und Gottes Haus war wüst gelegen.
Now therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Ye have sown much, and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. So what happens when God's blessings doesn't attend you?
Was passiert, wenn Gottes Segen nicht auf dir liegt?
You suffer loss.
Yes, you can do many things. You can sow much, but
Du
you
kannst so viel arbeiten, aber
and you can sow,
und du kannst auch so viel säen
but you reap little, right?
und du wirst wenig ernten.
So it's all a waste of time if you do it in your own strength.
Also es ist eine verlorene Zeit, wenn du es in deiner eigenen Stärke
You
tust.
just put in so much effort, so much time, but the result is so little.
So viel Anstrengung, aber das Resultat ist zu klein.
And let's continue 7. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Go up to the mountain and bring wood and build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, saith the Lord. Ye looked for much, and lo, it came to little. And when you brought it home, I did blow upon it. Why, saith the Lord of hosts? Because of mine house that is waste. And ye run every man unto his own house. Therefore the heaven over you is stayed from dew, and the earth is stayed from her fruit. And I called for a drought upon the land, and upon the mountains, and upon the corn, and upon the new wine, and upon the oil, and upon that which the ground bringeth forth. and upon man, and upon cattle, and upon all the labor of the hands. Okay, so if you neglect God's cause, then the Lord cannot bless you.
Wenn du verabsäumst, Gottes Zweck zu dienen, dann wird er seinen Segen zurückziehen.
And therefore it's very important to put him first, and then he can bless you, and then all your labors will prosper.
Darum ist es wichtig, ihn als erste Stelle zu stellen und dann wird er dich segnen.
And all your labors will prosper.
Und deine Arbeit wird gedeihen.
Yes. Okay, so that was just a short tangent. Okay. Let's go back to Luke 14,
Lukas 14 gehen wir zurück.
because they gave now these 3 times these excuses.
Also sie geben 3-mal diese Entschuldigungen.
Yeah, and they then get rejected, right?
Und sie werden
Verworfen.
verworfen.
And what happens in verse 21?
In Vers 21.
The master's angry, right?
Der Herr ist ärgerlich.
So you have angry here marked at this illustration at the
Also
9th
das
hour.
markieren wir hier an der 9. Stunde.
And who is now to be brought in?
Wer wird dann hereingebracht?
Not yet.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, the poor, the maimed, the halt, and the blind, that's
Yes.
the
Lost sheep, right?
Und wer wird hereingebracht? Die verlorenen Schafe, die Blinden, die Lahmen.
So the lost sheep are then called in.
Dann werden eben die verlorenen Schafe hereingerufen.
Okay, and it's always the principle: if you don't cherish what the Lord gives you,
Also wenn du das nicht
wertschätzt,
wertschätzt, was Gott dir gibt
and what He offers you,
und was er dir anbietet,
He will pass you by and will put somebody else in your place.
er wird jemanden anderen rufen und an deiner Stelle setzen.
So, and this happened with Vashti, and this happened with these guys here that used all these earthly excuses.
Also das ist mit Vashti passiert und auch mit diesen Leuten hier, die diese weltlichen Ausreden benutzt haben.
And these stories, they speak about us, brothers and sisters.
Und diese Geschichten reden über uns.
So either you can be Vashti, or you can be Esther, okay? And you must make the choice.
Ob du Vashti bist oder Esther, du musst eine Wahl treffen.
And 22, verse 22 says it is done,
Yes.
like in the end of the investigative judgment.
Yes.
In Vers 22 markiert das Ende des Untersuchungsgerichts. Es ist getan.
But this would be in this illustration here, right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Und das würde hier sein auf diese
Because
Illustration.
after the lost sheep are gathered in, he says
Nachdem
it's
diese verlorenen Schafe hereingebracht worden sind.
done. But we know that this is also it is done here for this
Oh,
one.
that- yes, yes.
So I just mark it here. Done. Okay. So, all right. So now let's go back to Esther.
Lass uns zurückgehen zu Esther.
So chapter 1.
Esther 1.
Because in verse 12,
Vers 12.
read it again. David, you want to read verse chapter 1, verse 12 for us, please?
But the Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned him.
Yes. Okay, so Vashti refuses, and what happens to the king?
It's wrong.
He's now wroth.
Also Esther, Vashti
Lehnt es ab.
lehnt es ab und der König wird zornig.
And I mean, she refuses here, right? But I would suggest line upon line, she refuses these 3 times.
Also Linie auf Linie würde es bedeuten, dass sie 3-mal ablehnt.
Because she's these 3 guys that make these excuses.
Und sie ist wie diese 3 Männer, die diese Ausreden haben.
And then at the end, the king is angry.
Und dann am Ende, der König ist ärgerlich,
Yeah.
zornig.
Like the master was angry.
So wie der Herr, der zornig war.
And then at the end, they now pass judgment upon her. Okay.
Und dann geben sie Gericht auf sie.
Okay. So let's continue
Lass uns fortsetzen.
in verse 13 to 14.
13 bis 14.
Or to verse 15 actually.
Bis 15.
And Sister Sandra, you want to read this for us, please?
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all the new law and judgment. And next unto him was Kashina, Sheta, Admatha, Tarshish, Medes, Messina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which said, the first in the kingdom, what shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law? Because she has not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains.
Yes. Okay, so what happens here now?
Was passiert hier?
There's now a judgment being done, right?
Das ist das Gericht, das über sie geht.
And who is partaking in this judgment?
Wer nimmt teil an diesem Gericht?
What does it say?
Wise.
Yes, the wise men, right?
Die Weisen nehmen
And
teil.
they knew the times.
Sie
Right?
haben die Zeit gewusst.
And they knew the law and the judgment.
Sie haben das Gesetz und die Gerichte gekannt.
Okay, let's keep your finger here. Let's go to Genesis 41 again.
1. Mose 41 gehen wir noch einmal.
And let's read verse 38 to 39.
38 und 39.
And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as God hath shewed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art.
Yes. Okay. How was Joseph here?
Discreet and wise.
Wie war Josef hier?
The 9th hour, when he stands now before Pharaoh, he's the wise man, right?
Also an der 9. Stunde, er ist der weise Mann.
And did he understand the times?
Hat er verstanden die Zeiten?
Yes.
Yes. He said 7 good years and then 7 bad years, right?
Er hat verstanden 7 gute Jahre und dann 7 schlechte Jahre.
And did he also understand the judgments of God?
Hat er verstanden die Gerichte Gottes?
Yes, he told them about the east wind coming and this would be bad, and etc.
Exactly.
Er hat ihnen gesagt, dass der Ostwind kommen wird und dass das schlecht werden wird.
So, therefore, it's here at the 9th hour when you are this wise man.
An dieser 9. Stunde, wenn du der weise Mann hier bist.
And Joseph was the Spirit of God, it said, right?
Und in Josef war der Geist Gottes.
But when we go back to Esther chapter 1,
Wenn wir zurückgehen zu Esther 1,
how many princes are there?
wie viele Prinzen sind dort?
According to verse 14.
Vers 14, wie viele Prinzen?
7 princes,
7
right?
Prinzen.
And they do what with the king's
Was
face?
machen sie?
You see the king's face.
They see the king's face. Right?
Sie sehen das Angesicht des Königs.
Yes. Okay. They are these angels,
Sie
right?
sind diese 7 Engel.
Let's keep your finger here. Let's go to Matthew chapter 18.
Matthäus 18 gehen wir.
And let's read verse 10 and 11.
10 und 11.
Sister Daniela, you want to read this for us, please? Matthew 18, verse 10 and 11.
Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost.
Yes. So speaks about these angels now that look on the face of God.
Es
Right?
redet darüber, dass diese Engel ständig das Angesicht Gottes schauen.
Okay, and who is in the presence of God?
Wer ist in der Gegenwart Gottes?
Let's go to Revelation
Offenbarung
chapter 4.
4.
And we one time made a study on this,
Wir haben bereits einmal ein Studium darüber gemacht
on these eyes of the Lord. Right?
und über diese Augen des Herrn.
Okay. I don't know if you remember the study, but maybe one of you guys remembers it.
Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr euch erinnert daran.
Yes.
Connected with Zechariah.
Yes, okay. Let's go to Revelation 4
Offenbarung 4,
and let's read verse 5.
5, Vers 5.
And Daniel, you want to read this?
And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God.
Yes. Okay, so what did he see here, Daniel?
Was hat er hier gesehen?
7 fire spirits.
Yes. And what does it represent in the sanctuary?
Was bedeuten diese Geister im Heiligtum?
Oh, yes, was
Leuchter.
the golden candlestick, right?
Das waren diese goldenen Leuchter.
And a candlestick, when you go now, keep your finger here, let's go to Revelation 1.
Lass uns gehen zu Offenbarung 1, das ist ein
Vers 20.
Leuchter. 1, Vers 20.
It says here, das ist eine Deutschbibel.
Ja.
The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. Okay, so what is a candlestick representing?
Was ist ein Leuchter, was stellt er dar?
A church.
Eine
Right?
Gemeinde.
Because 7 candlesticks are 7 churches, he says here, therefore 1 candlestick is 1 church. Right?
7 Leuchter sind 7 Gemeinden, also ein Leuchter ist eine Gemeinde.
So when you go back to Revelation 4,
Offenbarung 4 gehen wir zurück.
so this candlestick stands where?
Wo steht dieser Leuchter?
According to verse 5.
Vers 5.
Before the throne.
Vor
Okay.
dem Thron Gottes.
So it's the church standing in the face of the Lord, right?
Das ist die Gemeinde, die im Angesicht Gottes steht.
Yeah. And what church is there in heaven?
Welche Gemeinde gibt es da im Himmel?
Yes, the church triumphant.
Die
Right?
triumphierende Gemeinde.
And the church triumphant is permitted to draw near to the church militant here. Right?
Und die triumphierende Gemeinde, derer ist erlaubt, zu der militanten Gemeinde zu helfen.
Ja, kämpfende Gemeinde.
Der kämpfenden Gemeinde.
And it's represented by 7 spirits, right?
Und das ist dargestellt durch 7 Geister.
So let's go now to Hebrews
Hebräer,
chapter 1.
Hebräer 1 gehen wir.
And let's read verse 13 to 14.
13 bis 14.
It says, but to which of the angels said he at any time, sit on my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool? Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation? So what are the angels?
Was sind die Engel hier?
Ministering spirits.
Ministering spirits.
Dienende Geister.
Okay. So these 7 spirits are just an illustration of this church triumphant in heaven.
Also die 7 Geister sind eine Darstellung für die triumphierende Gemeinde im Himmel,
That is filled with the Holy Spirit, right?
die gefüllt ist mit dem Heiligen Geist.
Because the candlestick was filled with the holy oil, right?
Denn der Leuchter wurde gefüllt mit dem heiligen Öl.
And Yeah, they are now these spirits sent forth to minister unto you.
Und das sind jetzt diese Geister, die vorangeschickt werden.
But let's go now to where is it? I think 1 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians?
1. Korinther oder 2.
Let's go
Korinther?
to 1 Corinthians chapter 5, I think, or 6.
1. Korinther 5 oder 6?
No, 1 Corinthians 6.
1. Korinther 6.
It says here in verse 1
Vers 1,
down to verse 5.
1 bis 5.
It says, dare any of you having a matter against another go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world? So what are the saints going to do?
Was machen die Heiligen?
They will judge the world.
Sie
Okay?
werden die Erde richten.
And if the world shall be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Know ye not that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the church. I speak to your shame. Is it so that there's not a what?
Wise man.
A wise man among you? So he's asking basically, is there no Joseph among you, right?
Ist da kein Josef unter euch, sagt er.
Because Joseph was the wise man, right?
Denn Josef war der weise Mann.
So you are to judge as soon as you become a wise man, right?
Und du wirst richten, sobald du ein weiser Mann wirst.
Because what office did Samuel obtain after his experience?
Welches Amt hat Samuel ausgeführt nach seiner Erfahrung?
Priesthood.
Yes,
Prophet, priesthood,
the judge.
judge.
Yes.
Er war Prophet, Priester und Richter.
Yeah, so here you become a judge.
Hier wirst du ein Richter.
Okay. Because what else do you become here? Maybe that's
Was wirst du noch hier?
it's maybe an obscure question, but maybe somebody understands.
Priester.
When you become a judge, what can you now do?
Execute.
You can now judge between good and evil,
Du
right?
kannst richten zwischen Gut und Böse.
But what is this experience here for you?
Was ist diese Erfahrung hier?
Or maybe that's maybe an obscure question. And 1, 2, 3, what does it represent?
Everlasting.
Everlasting gospel, right?
Das ewige Evangelium bedeutet das, die 1, 2, 3.
able to take others through the same experience.
Yes, true. So you now pass through the everlasting gospel,
Du
right?
bist selber durchgegangen durch das ewige Evangelium.
And what angel do you become now?
Und welcher Engel wirst du dann?
Yes. You become the third angel, right?
Du wirst dann der dritte Engel.
Because the third step is always what step?
Der dritte Schritt ist was immer?
The last, the final.
Judgment. Okay.
Das ist Gericht.
So when you're now a wise man and you can judge, you're now this third angel. Right?
Wenn du ein weiser Mann bist, der richten kann, dann bist du jetzt der dritte Engel.
Let's go to Matthew
Matthäus
13.
13 gehen wir. Matthäus 13.
And let's go to the parable of the wheat and the tares.
Von Gleichnis vom Unkraut und Weizen.
And let's read verse 39 to 41.
39 bis 41 lesen wir.
It says, the enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world. And the reapers are the angels. Okay, so for one group, right, the first group, this is the end of the world, right?
Für eine Gruppe, für die erste Gruppe ist das Ende der Welt.
Yeah, the ninth hour, right?
Die 9. Stunde.
And what happens, what begins here now?
Was beginnt hier nun?
Harvest.
The harvest.
Die
right?
Ernte beginnt.
So, and Jesus says, if you're accounted worthy,
Wenn du als würdig geachtet wirst,
Keep your finger here, let's go to Luke. Where is it? Luke 20 or so?
Lukas 20,
Yes, Luke 20, verse 30 to 36.
Lukas 20, Vers 30 bis 36.
No, 35 to 36, sorry.
Aha, Lukas 20, 35 bis 36.
It says, "But they which shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage. Neither can they die any more, for they are equal unto the angels, and are the children of God, being the children of the resurrection." Right? So, what do you therefore see here?
Was sieht man hier?
You become like an angel here, right?
Du wirst so wie ein Engel hier.
And if you're accounted worthy, and where are you accounted worthy?
Wenn du würdig geachtet wirst, wo wirst du würdig erachtet?
Yes, in the investigative judgment, and at
Im
the end you're
Untersuchungsgericht. Und am Ende wirst du als würdig geachtet.
so, and now you are like an angel.
Und jetzt bist du so wie ein Engel.
And what did the angels do, according to Matthew 13?
Und was wird ein Engel tun, gemäß Matthäus 13?
They reap, right?
Sie ernten.
So, here now you're an angel, and you are now a reaper.
Du bist ein Engel nun hier und du erntest.
Okay, and let's continue in Matthew 13.
Matthäus 13 setzen wir fort.
So let's just read verse 39 again.
39 lesen wir.
"The enemy that sowed them is the devil, and the harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. And therefore the tares are gathered and burnt in the fire. So shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels," or his reapers, right? "And they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity. And they shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who have ears to hear, let him hear." Bis Vers 43.
Bis 43.
Okay, so he shall send forth his angels, and we understand at the 9th hour you are
Also er wird seine Engel voranschicken
sent, right?
und in der 9. Stunde dann bist du gesandt.
And these angels, they now separate the wheat from the tares. Right?
Und sie trennen nun den Weizen von den Unkraut.
Does anybody have access to Ellen White? Or maybe I can just pull it up on my phone quickly.
Schauen wir ein Zitat.
What do you want to find?
This quote about the third angel.
He's the angel that is to.
Yes. It's early writings 118.
Es ist Frühe Schriften 118.
Okay, I will post it now. And maybe somebody can translate it, please, into German people. Okay, good.
You said 180?
Yes, 118.1, early writings. It's also in the live stream. And it says, "I then saw," what angel? The third angel.
Dann habe ich gesehen, welchen Engel?
Den dritten.
Den dritten Engel.
"Said my accompanying angel, fearful is his work, awful his mission. He is the angel that is to select the wheat from the tares, and seal or bind the wheat for the heavenly garner. These things should engross the whole mind and the whole attention." So, what angel is now separating here the wheat from the tare and the harvest?
Welcher Engel separiert hier den Weizen von den Unkraut?
The third angel.
Der dritte Engel.
Okay, so therefore, when you become this angel here, you not only become Gabriel and the two anointed ones.
Also du wirst nicht nur der Gabriel und die zwei Gesalbten hier,
but you also become this third angel.
du wirst der dritte Engel hier.
Because the third angel does what? He does judgment.
Der dritte Engel macht Gericht.
Because you're not a wise man, you can now judge.
Du bist ein weiser Mann, du kannst jetzt richten.
And now you can separate because not of your own ability, but because Christ is now in you.
Nicht aus deiner eigenen Kraft kannst du richten, sondern weil Christus in dir ist.
And Christ in you does the judgment. Okay.
Und Christus in dir macht das Gericht.
And it's not of your own.
Das ist nicht aus deiner eigenen Kraft.
You're still a weak
Du bist selber noch immer
human
schwach.
being. Okay. All right. So, and that's a nice verse. Okay, maybe I find it. Let's go to John chapter.
Johannes,
Where does it say the word does judge you?
John
8.
14. I will not judge you, but the word judge you at the last day.
Yes. But I mean it's John 12. I just found it here. But that's still not the verse I was looking for. Because Jesus says somewhere, it's not I that judge,
ja.
but how I hear, I judge. Something like this. Let's see. Here. John 5? Okay, maybe. Which verse? Yes. That's exactly that's the verse.
John what?
John 5 verse 30. Praise God.
Also Johannes 5, 13.
30.
30.
That says, I can of mine own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me. So, when Jesus judged, whose judgment did he execute?
Welches Gericht hat Jesus ausgerichtet, als
The
gerichtet hat?
Father's judgment, right?
Des Vaters Gericht.
But keep your finger here in John 5.
Johannes 5.
Let's go to Isaiah chapter 9.
Jesaja 9 gehen wir.
Let's read verse 6.
Vers 6.
It says, For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. About whom is it speaking here?
Also über wen redet es hier?
About Christ, right?
Über Christus.
And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So how is Jesus also called?
Wie ist Jesus auch noch genannt?
He's our Father. We are
Mighty
children.
Yes, he's the Everlasting Father.
Ist auch der ewige Vater.
Yeah, because he's a father unto us.
Ist ein Vater zu uns.
That's why the role between the Father and the Son
Diese Rolle zwischen Vater und Sohn,
will be the same as Christ and us.
das wird dieselbe sein zwischen Christus und uns.
Paul in 1 Timothy. Is it Paul in 1 Timothy?
Sorry?
He calls him his son.
Yes. Onesimus and Timothy
Also,
and Titus.
Auch Paulus nennt Onesimus seinen Sohn
Yes, and also
und auch Timotheus
and Titus, I think.
und
also.
Titus.
So, in this sense, yeah, what Christ played here on earth is us, and He will be in the Father's stead.
Was Christus hier auf der Erde gemacht hat, das stellt dar, was wir einfach sein werden mit Christus.
And He has also hat dann die Rolle des Vaters im Himmel.
Und hat dann die Rolle des Vaters an.
So, therefore, when we read in John chapter 5,
Also in Johannes 5,
where it says in verse 30, it's not
Fünf.
my judgment, but as I hear, so I judge.
er hat gesagt, es ist nicht mein Gericht, so wie ich höre, ist es Gericht.
Yeah. So therefore, it's when Christ is now us, and the Father is Christ.
So wenn Christus nun uns ist oder wir ist und Christus der Vater,
So it's just like this.
es ist so.
Okay, so this relationship is then this
Diese
relationship.
Beziehung ist dann dieselbe wie diese.
So therefore, when Christ judges as the Father tells him,
Wenn Christus richtet, so wie der Vater es ihm sagt,
how will we judge then?
wie werden wir richten?
The same way.
As Christ tells us, right?
So wie Christus es uns sagt.
Yeah, everybody follows? So because he's our Father, okay?
Denn er ist unser Vater.
As the Father was to Christ, okay?
So wie der Vater war zu Christus.
Therefore, when Christ is now in you,
Wenn Christus in dir ist,
you can now become this judge and this third angel,
du wirst nun dieser dritte Engel und dieser Richter.
and therefore you don't judge of your own, as Jesus also didn't judge of his own when
Also
he
du
was on earth.
richtest nicht aus deinem eigenen heraus, so wie Jesus es auch nicht aus seinem eigenen
Ja.
heraus gemacht hat.
But as he heard of his Father,
So wie er gehört hat von seinem
so
Vater,
did he judge.
so hat er gerichtet.
And as we will hear from our Father,
Und so wie wir hören werden von unserem Vater,
so we will judge him.
so wir werden auch richten.
So no human exaltation, and you never can discern between the wheat and the tares. Okay.
Also keine menschliche Erhöhung und du kannst niemals unterscheiden zwischen Weizen und Unkraut.
But it's Christ telling you and
Aber es ist Christus, der dir sagt
and giving you the judgment. Okay.
und der gibt dir das Gericht.
Tells you this in Isaiah 11, the verses
Jesaja 11,
1 to 4.
Yes.
1 bis 4.
You wanna read this?
It says, And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. So this is the Spirit giving you all this understanding.
Yes, exactly.
And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord, and he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked.
Amen. Yes, exactly.
So read it.
Ah, that's a nice verse. Okay, so therefore it's here at the 9th hour. Yeah.
Darum ist es hier an der 9. Stunde.
And this is also when you become this church triumphant, right?
Dann wirst du die überwindende Gemeinde
And you now become a judge.
und dann wirst du ein Richter.
And when we now go back to Esther, and now we come to our closing thoughts.
Esther, gehen wir zurück, dann gehen wir zu dem schließenden Gedanken.
Because in verse 14,
Vers 14.
these 14 and 15, these 7 princes, they now made judgment together with Ahasuerus, right?
Also in Vers 14 und 15, diese Richter oder diese Prinzen machen Gericht.
So if these 7 princes represent now these 7 angels or this church triumphant,
Wenn diese 7 Prinzen diese triumphierende Gemeinde darstellen,
what kind of judgment is it?
welches Gericht ist es dann?
Because the church is also, what is another name in the Bible for the church?
Was ist ein anderer Name für die Gemeinde in der Bibel?
Where did Satan want to dwell or sit upon?
Wo wollte Satan sitzen?
Yeah, according to Isaiah 14, was on the Mount of Congregation, right?
Also er wollte am Versammlungsberg sitzen.
Therefore, you have here illustrated Christ and the congregation. Right?
Und du hast illustriert hier Christus und die Gemeinde.
So, Versammlung.
Die Versammlung, Christus und die Versammlung.
So, and where else do we find this thought of that there's the judgment of the congregation.
Wo finden wir noch diesen Gedanken des Gerichts an der Versammlung?
Yes, the refuge city, right?
In der Zufluchtsstadt.
Okay, so it's the same illustration that here now is Christ and the congregation judging.
Das ist dieselbe Illustration, Christus und die Gemeinde richten.
Because you are now a judge.
Denn du bist nun ein Richter.
And in the Bible, it's interesting, in the Hebrew, the word for God and judge is the same.
Also im Hebräischen ist das Wort für Gott und Richter dasselbe.
Therefore, what do you be? Maybe this is one of the last thoughts. Let's go to Psalms 83.
Psalm 83 gehen wir.
Oh no, it's not 83, but where's this Psalm where it says you are God? Ah, here, 82.
82.
Yes. So in verse 1 it says, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty, he judgeth among the gods. And then it says in verse 6,
In Vers 6 sagt dann, Vers 1 und Vers 6.
and 7 it says, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. So you become now this judge, and you're now a god with a small g. Okay.
Du wirst jetzt noch zu diesem Gott mit einem kleinen G.
Okay. And since you are now a god, you can now partake in the judgment because it's God who judges.
Und wenn du jetzt Gott wirst, dann kannst du auch teilnehmen am Gericht.
Because God judges.
Denn Gott richtet.
It confirms it there in that verse. It says, ye are gods and all of you are children of the Most High. And that's what we read in Luke 14.
Yes, amen.
Also
Luke 20, you mean, right? Counted worthy.
ihr seid Kinder des Allerhöchsten. In Lukas 21 steht das.
No, Luke 20, when you're accounted worthy, you become children of the resurrection.
Aha, wenn ihr würdig geachtet werden als Kinder der Auferstehung.
Yes. Okay, so now last thought, go back to Esther 1.
Esther 1 gehen wir zurück.
And this will be a leading thought for tonight's study when we will go to Esther chapter 2.
Und das wird ein Gedanke sein, wenn wir heute am Abend zu Esther 2 gehen.
Okay, so because we are now here at the 9th hour, and what happens now to Vashti?
Wir sind jetzt an der 9. Stunde und was passiert zu Vashti?
She's now rejected, right?
Sie wird jetzt hinausgestoßen.
So, and then there's this decree published all around the kingdom, right?
Und dann wird dieses Dekret veröffentlicht im ganzen Königreich.
So, and basically that the man should bear rule in the house. Okay.
Und dass der Mann eben regieren soll im Haus.
And what does this represent?
Was stellt das dar?
Why is this decree important?
Warum ist dieses Dekret wichtig?
Christ is the king of the house.
Okay, yes.
Denn Christus ist der König des Hauses.
But a man represents what, and a woman represents what?
Christ is judge.
Yes, okay.
Es stellt Christus und die Gemeinde dar.
But this whorish woman in Revelation 17,
Also diese Hure in Offenbarung 17,
what did she do?
was hat sie gemacht?
She was sitting on the kings of the earth, right?
Sie ist gesessen auf den Königen der Erde.
So she bore rule over the man, right?
Sie hat geherrscht über den Mann.
And because the state power is the man. Right?
Denn die Staatsmacht ist der Mann.
So now it's like a reversal. Church and state is again separated, and the man is again in control of the relationship. Okay.
Dann ist jetzt eben wieder umgekehrt, wo eben der Staat wieder regiert und getrennt ist einfach von der Kirche.
Yes. Okay. So, and this all brings us here to the 9th hour.
Und das bringt uns jetzt zur 9. Stunde.
Which is in this fractal here,
Das
this
ist
way
in
mark.
diesem
Okay.
Fraktal diese Wegmarkierung.
And this is I think important for the next chapter to
Und das ist wichtig für das nächste Kapitel, das wir durchgehen werden.
and this is what we will look at this evening.
Und das
Okay.
schauen wir heute am Abend an.
So right here I mark end of chapter 1. Okay?
Hier schreibe ich hier Ende von Kapitel 1.
Okay. Everybody could follow.
Hat jeder folgen können?
Okay, so you could just see he made these 2 feasts.
Er hat diese 2 Feste gemacht.
Esther, she refused to come when she was called.
Esther hat abgelehnt zu kommen, als sie gerufen war.
And then we saw basically that now the king rejected her,
Der König hat sie nun
verworfen.
verworfen.
And basically, those that partake in her judgment are those that overcame in this time.
Und diejenigen, die teilhaben am Gericht, die sind diejenigen, die überwunden haben.
Because at the 9th hour you become a wise man and you become a judge, a god, and you become the 3rd angel.
Also an der 9. Stunde, da wirst du ein weiser Mann, ein Richter und du wirst auch der 3. Engel.
And you now go forward to separate the wheat and the tares.
Und du gehst vorwärts und du trennst Weizen und Unkraut.
But it's not you that judgeth, but Christ in you that
Aber es ist nicht
judgeth.
du, der richtet, sondern Christus in dir.
And here then this decree went forth to now again put man above the woman in the relationship, right?
Und dann ist das Dekret vorwärts gegangen, um den Mann in der Beziehung über den Frau zu stellen.
Because it's church and state. Okay?
Denn es ist Kirche und Gemeinde.
State. Church and state. Kirche und Staat.
Kirche und Staat, ja,
And the
richtig.
state is
Ja,
to
ja.
rule over the church.
Der Staat muss herrschen über die Gemeinde.
Okay. Alright. Yes, and that basically brings us to the end of chapter 1.
Und das bringt uns zum Ende von Kapitel 1.
Okay, then let's close this one.
Dear Father in heaven,
Lieber Vater im Himmel,
we want to thank you for this morning study,
wir danken dir für dieses Morgenstudium,
for these promises, what you've prepared for us,
all diese Verheißungen, die du vorbereitet hast für uns
and where you want to set us over.
und worauf du uns alles stellen willst.
We ask that you would help us this day to be faithful.
Und wir beten darum, dass wir treu sind an diesem heutigen Tag.
Help us our mind to dwell on this chapter.
Gib, dass wir betrachten dieses Kapitel
We ask that you would keep us,
und wir beten, dass du uns bewahrst,
that you would help us to be wise.
gib, dass wir weise sind.
We ask for wisdom for us and our brothers in Germany.
Und wir beten auch für Segen für unsere Brüder in Deutschland.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesu Namen. Amen.
Amen.